Hey everybody, and welcome to September's edition of Board Game Buys. So in this series I talk about all of the board games that I have acquired during the last 30 days or so. It's going to be a quick episode because I only have 4 games here. Now before I get started on the games, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor and the place where I purchased most of these games. That is KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. But let's start with the main game here. I'm definitely the heavy hitter out of these 4. This is 3 Ring Circus by Fabio Lopiano and Remo Consadori. I'm not so familiar with Remo, but Fabio Lopiano has been a designer who I generally check out his designs because he's made some pretty fantastic games such as Kalamala. Some really good ones such as Merv, but he has also made some games that I've not been such a huge fan of, such as Zapotec and the more recent Autobahn. But this is his latest one. This is a brand new 2023 release. It's a kind of a tableau building style game from my understanding, as you are building up this set of cards, which are these circus characters. You can see this is all circus theme. You're going to be traveling around this map, putting on performances in small, medium, or large towns, which I believe, mechanically is some kind of area control game. And I'm more interested in the card play and how that works, because there's some kind of triggering order that comes into play there. So I'm going to Lopiano, a designer who I'm probably going to check his games out at least. Devere Games always know how to package the games to a really high standard. You can see this one's still in shrink, so I'm going to unwrap this one and read the rules later and hopefully get it played next, really. So this is kind of my right at the top of my priority list, and I'll probably do a full comprehensive review of this one, which is something I've not really been doing much recently. So this is kind of striking more when the iron is hot. That is 3 Ring Circus. Hopefully the card play is going to be good in that one. Next up, I have Sunset Over Water. Now this is from the Pencil First series of games. If you watch my content regularly, recently I have been playing kind of most of the Pencil First games. This one was the only one I think I've got left to play out of their small box games, at least. So recently I've played Delicious, Floriferous, Herbaceous, and the Whatnot Cabinet, and this is of course Sunset Over Water. Now this one is kind of more of a grid-based set collection game. I think you're moving around this grid, collecting cards to make sets. But I think some initiative mechanism comes into play here, which can obviously turn into a bit of a cutthroat game, because if you're moving the piece away from where, or changing the cards, what people want and stuff, if you break the turn order, and that's obviously going to mess up their plans. But only a 20-minute game, I believe. Very light, and it should not take me long to play this one. I think once I finish with this one, I'm going to do a review of all of the Pencil First games together and rank them from my least favourite up to my most favourite. So keep an eye out for that one if these little filler games appeal to you. But generally speaking, I've always spoken highly of the Pencil First games, hence why I keep purchasing them. I think they do a really good job of their little set collection games. But that is Sunset Over Water. Certainly a lovely looking game. Next up, I have Sea Salt and Paper. Now, this is actually a Bruno Cathala co-design. A very small box card game you can see here. And Cathala, again, if you watch my channel a lot, generally isn't my go-to designer. A lot of his games just don't really gel with me, but I wanted to try this one because I'm really into my small box card games at the moment. And this one is pretty interesting, as you have these really cool looking cards, and the artwork is all these kind of origami dioramas, I suppose. And you're basically collecting cards. You are playing pairs of the same type to activate a certain ability, and it has this, well, you're basically trying to get as many points as you can, but it has this push your luck kind of sudden death system, where you can try and end the round and almost bet on yourself that you're going to win the round. And if you do, you get a bit more of a bonus and your opponent will lose points, or you can just straight up just end the round and get points that way without that risk factor. That's a mechanism I generally like in games. We've seen it in games such as Cabo, which works really well. And even games like, Air, Land and Sea have that kind of thing where you are wagering on yourself to be able to win. And I do like the way that works. I'll probably talk about this in more in depth. Maybe I'll do a solo review of this one, or I might put it in a compilation review. But it's pretty simple, but it is a little bit, it has a few little, not fiddly rules, but ones that maybe aren't so intuitive at times. But I'll say that, or say my further thoughts for the review itself. And I believe there is a smaller expansion coming out for this one soon, which I'll have to check out. So that is Sea Salt and Paper. Seems to be getting a bit of a quiet following behind that one. And the final one is probably one you're not going to know about because it is yet to be released. This is Ground Breakers. This one is due to be released on Kickstarter later this year, very kindly sent to me by the designer. This is, despite the look of it, you'd probably think it's somewhat of a light, abstract, card-driven Civ game, but it's not. It's actually kind of well, I don't mean this derogatively, but it's kind of like an Exploding Kittens style game, as you're using these cards to try and shed your hand and give your opponent more cards, because if you're kind of stuck with any cards at the end of the game, then you can get some negative points, which is not good. So it's kind of a shedding game. I'm not sure if I'll do a full review of this one. I have discussed it with the designer, saying this isn't really the kind of game I generally cover on the channel, but I know they're popular because games like Exploding Kittens have sold millions and millions of copies. But I will cover it more in depth on my Hitting the Table series and my ranking series. But yeah, it's a very simple card game and doesn't have this kind of Civ style gameplay that you'd probably imagine from the box cover alone, with characters such as Julius Caesar and Martin Luther King, etc. And yeah, that's Groundbreakers. So that's it, really. That's all of the games that I have purchased over the last 4 weeks or so. So not many here. I've just slowed down a bit in terms of stockpiling games for my collection, which is good because it's given me a good chance to play the games that I already own. Now, if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel and check out my other content too. But for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye-bye.